Job well done. Puede haber Pakowski. Centra. And Riga lead.
Welcome back to the Latvian Football Podcast, where we will continue our review of Virsliga 2023. And we sort of covered more of the table and statistical part, but now we'll talk more about our own opinions and views and reflections on the season, and do also some fun stuff. We'll name our own subjective, well, I'd say also relatively objective, because we are following the league, MVPs, young player, biggest flaw, biggest surprise, and also top 11 and or I guess top reserve 11 of the season. Also maybe talk about our predictions that we did at the start of the season, and have this sort of fun. And what should we start with? Maybe quickly go into our predictions of the season.
Yeah, in this episode where we try on the pundit shoes, as it were.
Yeah,
I guess. So at the beginning of the season, our very, very first episode, which was, why should you care about Latvian football? And then talking about the season 2023, we did some predictions on what we thought the top three and bottom three would look like. For some reason, we just avoided the middle, but it's a bit tricky to try to arrange all 10 teams whole season in advance. And, we got some of them right.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, first of all, congratulations. You predicted the champions very correctly.
Yes,
you predicted our Fest to win.
Thank you. I knew. I had no doubt. Let's say that.
Yeah, I did predict Riga to win, and I think, both were very fair guesses, seeing how it ended in the end. However, our second place was both wrong, because we both guessed Valmiera, and then respectively you guessed Riga to be third, I guessed RFS to be third. Well, who would have thought that it would be such a two-horse race in the end?
Well, the reason I thought Riga would be third is because their constant coach changes and the resulting lack of any kind of consistent performance by the team in previous seasons. I just didn't think that they will reverse this. But in a sense, they very much did. Stipic is the first coach
ever
for Riga to actually start and finish the season. Well, it doesn't seem like he'll last much longer now, but still, that is noteworthy. And Riga were a hairbreadth away from getting the gold. In fact, they sort of gave it away in a sense.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess our guesses both were quite all right, maybe except the Valmiera second place.
So what I'm saying is that for me, Riga overperformed significantly.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I didn't think they would really challenge.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like number 3 where they're 2 points behind RFS kind of a situation.
Yeah.
I thought it's going to be sort of where Liepa is now, kind of a thing.
Yeah, had more belief in Riga. Well, fair enough. Coach stayed the whole season, something new, but still. And Valmiera, I guess, as I said the previous recording, I think if they didn't have the squad problems or injury problems and were as efficient in front of the goal as they could have been there in the second or third place. But in the end, it wasn't to be. They got the third place, and yeah, we're both quite. Well, you're more correct because you got one exactly right, but 2 of the 3 teams we guessed right of the top 3.
I think neither of us could really predict or even imagine the extent to which Valmiera will weaken themselves this season. And this season, I think you'll agree, Virsliga was not overall as strong as last season.
I'm not sure if I would agree with that, because maybe because it was a 2-horse race, and I think the level that was set by Riga and RFS was higher, but maybe the other teams not so much.
Who other than Aude got stronger?
I mean, okay, I think you have a good point.
I don't think
maybe it
it's a
stayed the
major-
same pretty much.
I don't think it's a major drop, but I think it's a drop nonetheless.
I guess. But maybe I think it's also a bit of just because how Valmiera played last season, they were just gorgeous in everything, their style, everything, and maybe that sort of made it seemed better. And the fact that they did not do as well in Europe, while RFS got group stage, I think that sort of hinders the fact. And in that case, it's a good point. But
Liepa, start of last season when they had that coach from Belarus, they were really strong as well.
yeah, well, Liepa is definitely a flop. But I guess it's not a bad shout. So could be inclined to agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So the point there was that even though the league a little bit weaker this season, I don't think we could have imagined that Valmiera will
No way.
do what they did. Like we talked in the previous episode that all things considered, good season for them. And if you look broader, if you look at their budgets and all the other stuff that make a football club, not just football, then it's all good, it's all fine. But coming out of this almost like golden years Barcelona style of football that Valmiera were playing last season, and then kind of scraping fourth. If you told that to us in March, we would raise an eyebrow, say something polite, and walk away.
Yeah, I guess it's a good point, and fair enough. And let's hope next season the level rises, and also let's hope we get a group stage again. Would love that.
Seems very likely. Seems very likely.
Definitely.
And looking at the Europe Cup performance this year, both of Riga's were very poor. We have to admit that. RFS more unlucky than poor, but still. And Riga just surprisingly not as confident as they really should have been.
Yeah.
Barely scraping by Vikingur and Keshkemet.
Yeah.
Okay, Twente.
They got as far as they should have, but not as confidently as they should have.
Exactly. Yeah. But even with that, I'm much more at ease that RFS are the ones who are going to go through the Champions League path. And it seems like they might scrape the bottom of the seeded pot as well. Obviously, we'll not know until like May next year. Yeah, but if they do, then for sure, never say for sure, but I would say for sure they should go through this first qualification round, which
means pretty much a group stage.
Hasn't been since Ventspils, or no? It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been. I think it's since Ventspils. But see, Riga would have been seeded definitely, and
well, yeah, but so what I'm saying is that the squad and consistency of RFS. Puts me at ease.
If it stays like that, I will agree. But it's hard to see. Some players might be very good attraction for other teams from bigger leagues. But
but the system and the coach will.
That's a good
stay
point. Yeah,
100%.
Probably. Yeah.
They just need to actually buy some.
Yeah, it's time to spend some money.
Yeah, exactly. Although Verpakovsky did say that they're minus $1 million this season because of the poor Euro Cup performance. So, and their parent, their main sponsor, LNK Industries, I think they're too busy doing the amazing job of building the LNK Sporta Parks. So there's probably not a lot of extra cash to invest.
But that's fair enough. We like the sustainability of RFS.
Yeah. So I think group stage next year is something to look forward to.
Yeah. And then, the bottom three predictions.
We both got Tukums right, number 8.
Tukums, spot on in number 8. You also got Meta right in number 9. Fair play. But then, we definitely under predicted Jelgava's performance. I put them 9 and Meta 10th, and you put Jelgava 10th. Just very wrong. But overall, it all comes down to the fact that we thought Supernova's squad definitely looked better than they performed. In the end, Supernova confidently came last, and Jelgava surprisingly went and got 6th. So I'd say overall, again, you are much more correct. You have 2 precisely right, but I believed in Jelgava more than you did.
I'm just trying to remember my state of mind that I didn't put Supernova last, and I think that's your fault because you were in my ear about how, their squad is amazing and they have Rakels and...
It still would be mad to put them last, considering they have Lizans, Rakels, Vishniakovs.
Yeah. I think that I'm having a flashback now. So
Yeah.
So should have went with my instinct, but I think my rationale for putting Jelgava last was looking at how Supernova performed the season before, when they went at it with their academy pretty much alone, and they finished last.
Yeah, gotta believe in Parkons. he definitely surprised. Well, later, not only him, but yeah.
For me, Parkons was no one I really knew, given my history with sort of rediscovering football in general and Latvian football in particular. So
fair enough. Yeah.
I'm just a bit disappointed that we have the same teams, just arranged in a slightly different order.
Yeah, it is a bit. Yeah, And also, I made a mid-season prediction of bottom teams. I did put Supernova bottom then. I think it was quite obvious that they were going to be less than, but still didn't believe in Jelgava. I guess because Meta played quite all right and Parkons left Jelgava. Should have believed in Jelgava more. But yeah. Interesting predictions of our side, and I'd say overall quite good predictions.
Not too bad. Yeah, a big minus on the Jelgava, but
yeah, but we do know something. It's nice to see.
Yeah, it's not a total flop.
Yeah.
So we also decided to have a look at what our top 11 and kind of second 11 would be, and I shared mine with you, but you didn't share yours with mine, so I don't know what yours is. I
thought it would be more interesting to just to see it on the space. So I've tried hard not to really analyze your one. So I'm only gonna do that now, and I guess let's start with yours, shall we?
Yeah. So I arranged mine in the traditional 4-4-2.
Mm-hmm.
No real reason. So it's not that I think there weren't. Well, anyway. So in my top 11, the goalkeeper situation is a bit tricky because there wasn't a single goalkeeper this season who was in the top teams who was reliably number one. Goalkeepers of all top teams, all top 5 teams rotated. Some more, some less. So this was a bit tricky to pick, and I'm very, very impressed by how Matrevets is performing now that he's back from injury for Riga. I mean, it's just amazing. But I still...
Interesting. I wouldn't say that good. It could have been better, but fair enough. He's not been bad, definitely, yeah.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, he could have been worse.
Yeah.
But in any case, I chose Purinc. Purinc, in many ways, had a breakout season. First pick for Riga for the longest time. Very stable. Took over as the national team keeper and kind of really only fell out at the start of autumn or something like that. After the national team really performed poorly.
Yeah, and also after Jelgava lost pretty much.
Yeah, but that's just the last few games. Up until then, very good.
Exactly, have to consider. It's hard to perhaps look past the recency bias, but fair shout.
So who do you have?
I will go position by position.
I don't know. Okay, we can go with me. So yeah, Purinc is my top 11 starting keeper. Left back Mares, year on year.
Yeah, no questions about it.
Crosser. Yeah, maybe not the best in defense.
Yeah,
but overall as a kind of wing back, I don't think there's anyone close to him in Virsliga. Central defender number 1, Lipuschek. I think still hands down best CD in Virsliga, again year on year, very consistent. It's just looking forward to him playing in some very, very top league. I think he has what it takes, but also very comforted by the fact that he probably will not be anytime soon because they just had a child, so it's not really the best time to move. So maybe kind of keep him with us longer for non-football related reasons, which is great for Virsliga, I think. I took a colleague of mine, a French colleague of mine, to the Latvian Cup final, which wasn't the best game. quality-wise. But he very much immediately pointed Lipuščák out as best guy in the field.
Interesting.
Yeah. Second CD Chernomordis, not less for the fact that he seems to have this Maradona hand of God kind of special talent in that he fouls a lot, but doesn't
gets away with it.
Yeah, he gets away with it.
But you also have to be smart about it. That's what makes him also a good defender. You can point it out after the games, but during the games, it's not that visible, so he knows what he's doing. Yeah.
And Torsten Fink very much was spot on with this when he was talking about Chernomordis. He said that, he gets cards, but he gets cards from play, and that he's not arguing with the referees or anything. He's a strong central defender, relatively young still for a central defender, so hopefully he'll get a chance in a higher league. And then right back I put Cúcurs from Daugavpils. Just really sympathetic to me. I had to think about this for a while. Thought maybe Savalnieks, thought maybe to jam the other Czech, Harušták, on that flank, even though he's a left back. Then there's other candidates, but Jurkovskis obviously. But overall, I think Cúcurs deserves this spot. Just a very good season for him. Very much carried Daugavpils in many situations on his back. In midfield, left winger, I went with Daškevič from Riga FC, a young Latvian. Also a breakout season, also call up to the national team, where he is playing, not just sitting on the bench. Maybe not a starter yet, but a very fast, technical player. Needs to get a bit more consistency, but generally just excited to see how he'll develop. Also product of Daugavpils football school, which is very good. Midfielder number 1, Adam Markiev, hands down for me the biggest positive discovery in Virsliga this season. The guy as a defensive midfielder is just insane, and seeing him live is even better than on TV. It's just very exciting. Captain of Finnish U21 squad. Definitely has a bright future ahead of him if he keeps up like this. And what I hear from interviews, a really nice guy as well. Then I went with Samoilos of Tukums. Again, call up to the national team for the first time. It's just been very consistent in Tukums midfield. A good long shot on him. Just nice to see. And right back, I put Ikaunieks there.
Right mid.
Well, yeah. And for forwards, Osuagu from Jelgava. I thought he's interesting from the beginning. He kind of looks more like a sprinter in terms of his build, has long legs. Wasn't really scoring at first. But then once Jelgava transitioned to park the bus counter-attacking system, it was really found his place, very quick. And once he found his aim, also clinical. And Ramirez. We talked last episode that Ramirez has really put the teeth into Aude. And he's a very interesting, very unique player in Virsliga in that he's a forward, but he's very a little bit Neymarish in that he likes to provoke opponents and kind of be a little bit sneaky and a little bit dirty, but all within the regulations. So it's just fun to see. And my coach is obviously Viktor Smoros.
Yeah, well, makes sense. A couple of surprises, I would say. First, I'd say Cúcurs. It's a fair shout. He's had a good season, but for me, well, you'll later hear he's not for me. He's not there just because he played a lot. Also as a CM, or central midfielder, not only in right back, he played all over the place, which actually makes him maybe even more valuable player. But wasn't such a standout position. Although it is a good shout, and I'm starting to overthink my choices. But I guess fair enough. Daškevič, I would also say for the main 11 is a bit because he was good, but rarely started and mainly came off the bench. Though he did have an impact. The rest of them, it's completely understandable and quite similar to mine, so I'll go through mine. Goalkeeper position, as you said, it is a very tricky one because yeah, it was a weird situation with goalkeepers this year. Almost no goalkeeper was actually very, stable throughout the season. And maybe it's a controversial, maybe I should swap, but I actually went with Sturic as the main one because he's probably the most, stable goalkeeper this year. Played the most, well, I mean, I don't know if the most games, but I guess you know what I mean. Yeah, he was the most.
He was the top pick.
Yeah. Topic for Jelgava for the most of the season and played quite confidently and with his stability, and of course definitely still not the best keeper overall, still very young, but the fact that he got some good results, got some good saves for Jelgava, which is also got the sixth place, which was a bit of a surprise. Let's say he does deserve it, though maybe he could swap for Purinc, who, well, I'll tell you, is in my second team. Because, Purinc also had a good season overall. Then left back Mares. Everything you said, just no questions. Very prolific. Not only assisting, but scoring as well. Penalties, some long shots. Very good player. Also Lipuščak. Just no doubt that he's a very good defender. Hope to see him in a better league, as you said. Then I went with the other Riga center back, Elbashir and Gom. I think Chernomordis actually didn't have the best season. Still very, also, a stable player. I don't know. Ngom this season was very good. Had his mistakes in him, but overall, just what amazing player on the ball. He's a defender, but sometimes he gets the ball and just overtakes the player, which is a bit risky, but he does it with such confidence and perfection that can't really fault him for that. And still also quite young. And another one who definitely could play in a better team, in a better league. Right back, I went with a very basic choice, Savalnieks. He's just a very, very solid right back. Also a lot of assists, a few goals here and there, and just does his job. Very similar to Mares, and also a champion. So what can you say? And then left mid, again, I went with the other Riga guy, Aurelio. A very poor last lap of the season, but for the 3 quarters he was very good. A lot of goals, assists, and also very good dribbler of the ball.
The most shots
made, right?
Yeah, 118 shots during the season.
It just shows that maybe not as prolific as one would hope to be. Would hope him to be.
Is to get more of them in the net. But
yeah,
he's definitely
exactly.
Shooting a lot.
But still a good player. A good stability for Riga FC. Started almost every game and rarely got subbed off, and just a good player. Then in the middle, I went. By the way, I have a 4-5-1, so I have 3 midfielders, 2 more defensive, 1 more attacking. I went with Savelyevs and Marhiev. I think Savelyevs had a very good season in Auda. Are also maybe not as visible, but just solid. Did his job, got some goals, assists, quite good defensively. Also, maybe a bit of a breakout season in terms of national team. Started to play a bit more for them. Not a lot, but at least got some minutes. 1 start as well against Armenia, and I think he should play more. I think he's a very good player, still quite young, and hope to see more of him. Marhiev, what else can I say? Also young, as you said, captain of under 21s for Finland, very good coming in RFS, and I think it's a rare thing that a player can come into RFS and be as good, as quick as he was, and just fit the style and just probably one of the best players this season overall.
Yeah,
definitely.
We've seen plenty of good players come to RFS and show nothing and then leave.
Yeah, exactly.
And Marko Regja is definitely, a case in point.
Yeah, and very good from Adam. Definitely also should get a better move. And probably the player you talked about, who, even though still young, probably has already outplayed himself in RFS and could get to a better league. Then I went with Samoilovs, quite obviously being in Tukums, but scoring and assisting as much as he did. Also the top scorer against top 4 teams, I think, which is also an incredible stat, again, because he plays for Tukums, the 8th place, and also got a national team call-up, and just a very, very good player. Then I went Ikauniks, On the right side could also be in a midfielder, but also you also put him in the right midfielder spot. So I think that's fair. Also probably the best season this year, player this season, and Ramirez up top, my sole striker. Though didn't get as much goals as maybe Ilic and Regja, just his style was very, very different and more enjoyable to watch, and some incredible goals, and also just exactly what Auda needed. And I think the impact he had on Auda was more of an impact that maybe Regja had on the Igor Ilic on RFS, because I think they would have been fine without them as well. But Ramirez definitely a very good striker, and hope to see more of him next season if he stays in this league.
Who's your coach?
Gotta go with Morris, probably. Yeah.
Do we try to make a podcast's top 11?
Oh, that could be a bit hard.
Well, I need to agree on formation first. But I do like your 4-5-1 because I struggled with picking strikers.
Yeah. I
think maybe 4-5-1 is a bit of a more authentic formation for Virsliga.
Mm-hmm. Well, we can try and do that. What would you?
I would still say Purinc as the.
I would agree with that because he's in the second squad. Yeah.
Yeah, and also because I like Sturic, and it's wonderful the things he did. But I mean, look at who's he's competing against and who Purinc is competing against.
Yeah, definitely. Purinc, a good shot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then Mareš, Lipušek, we have the same.
I haven't gone in my kind of a backup team mainly because I think he's a better defensive midfielder than center back, but he was played mainly as a center back.
I could agree to go with Chernomerdis because he was as good probably.
And you want a guy who can foul in the penalty box and not get called for it.
It is a good point. It is a good point. Yeah. Then right back, I would say Savelnik should overall top tutors probably.
What do you think of Tiedenbergs?
My second squad. Well, we probably go through it as after we do this one. But if we make one final one, it's probably combined from or both top one squads. So
yeah. Well, I mean, I'm happy to go with Saverniks.
I think it's
the reason I didn't put him is because I don't think he had as good of a season as he had when he was last time at RFS.
Maybe
so not last year, but the year before that. I think he was better.
Perhaps, but still.
But he was also younger.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Yeah.
So let's go with Saverniks then.
Yeah.
All right. For left midfield, I do have Aurelius in a backup. I just kind of wanted to be a little bit, I don't know.
Fair enough.
Progressive or something with
it
Dashkevich.
Makes sense, and I like Dashkevich, but I think makes more sense to go with Aurelio.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so let's go with Aurelio there. We have Markiev, Samoilov.
Ikonix stays. Yeah. If we go for our formation, then...
Well, I have Jojic as well.
Jojic also in my second squad, but if we both have it in the second squad, I think it means... I don't know. I guess it's fair to swap him with Savelia, so we can go with that, yeah.
Because I think Jojic also had a weaker fourth lap.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe even the second half, but still, overall, very good player. And
he was very much a conduit for Riga in many ways, and his experience from Bundesliga
exactly was.
You could see that, and
you could, yeah.
As unconvincing as Riga was in the Conference League, Jojic was, without him, I think it's arguable whether they would have made it through Vikingur in the first round.
Fair enough, yeah.
A very good captain. I was at the press conference when we played, sports press during the Conference League, and it's just, I like him. So I would definitely put him.
I'm fine with that, and we can put him, yeah, so...
All right, then we need to... Oh, we both have Ramirez.
Ramirez, definitely.
Ramirez and both have Morris. All right.
Yeah. Good. Bring me through your second squad.
Well, I had Ozils as the keeper.
Mm-hmm.
Had Harustak as left back, so I clearly have fondness for Czech left backs. Just really nice, quick, technical youngster. He gave an interview at one point to a Czech magazine. Said some nice things about Latvia and even Daugavpils. So what's not to like, right?
Yeah.
His dad follows us on Twitter, and it just seems genuinely very proud of his son, and it's this outside of the pitch kind of an aura. It's really nice. It just seems like a nice kid. Really shame to see him go. Maybe because he is on loan in the Daugavpils, so maybe someone will buy him, but yeah. Then I had Isaievs as center back number 1. Really good season for Auda. You were very, very fond of him throughout. Then I had Elbashir Ngom and Tiedenbergs as right back. For midfield, I had Aurelio, Jojic, Baba Musa, and I jammed Emerson in there because even though he had a poor season,
still a good season.
It's still Emerson.
Yeah, exactly. It's fair enough.
He comes out on the field, you just get excited.
Yeah, I do completely agree. Yeah.
And then for the 2 forwards in my 4-4-2, I had Rekja and Contreras. So quite a lot of Riga FC.
Yeah,
but makes sense.
It does make sense. Yeah,
I had to fight myself not to jam my first 11 full of RFS players, but even then I have 1, 2, 3, 4 plus coach, and then my second 11 is full of Riga players, and that's sort of reflective of the final standings.
It does make sense. Yeah, and I tried not to really do that too much because it would make sense to put them, but also try to look at other options. And interesting shout. Musa is an interesting one because you can see he's a good player and physically very gifted, but just some things I think he hasn't found his position, and it's still a good season, but I haven't put him in there, but it's just an interesting player to talk about. And also Contreras, not in my squad, but what a player. I think he just had not enough time to be in my prestigious squad, but I like his work rate, the way he runs, and definitely you can see his quality, and he was part of the World Cup for a good reason. And
I had the same issue, but I tried to not put players who had left during the transfer window.
Exactly.
Otherwise,
also,
it would be Ilic.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, good point. Yeah. So I went with Purinc. Really could have swapped Purinc with Purinc, but just Purinc, I like his,
it's a one letter difference.
Almost, a good point. And at left back, I think this guy is a bit. I understand Harushtak was a good player, but there might be a bit some bias because he's just so nice off field. I went with Brett Schneider. I think he was surprisingly good this season because last season I thought, who is this guy? Why is he not? But this season, a very stable player for Aud and surprisingly good. And I really like Brett Schneider. For some reason, he was just very good this season. So had to put him in there.
Yeah, I agree.
Then I went to Sayevs. Had to be in there. Just as you said, good season for Aud, a good player. Shame that he has this relationship with the national team coach that he doesn't get called up because he definitely would deserve to be called up. Then I went with Balwadis. Not the best season for him, but I think without him, Valmiera wouldn't finish 4th. A good season for him still, and then also a good breakout in terms of national team. And definitely a case could be made for other center backs. It means that I haven't overall put Chernobordis in there. But something about Balwadis just, screams Valmiera, and as they actually didn't do that bad this season, considering many factors, I think one Valmiera player should be in there, and for me it's Balwadis. And right back I went with Tiedenberg, same as you. A bit on and off, but when he was on the pitch, just seemed to find assists and goals. And
he was injured for a while. So.
Exactly, yeah. In the midfield, I went with Minions. I think he should get a shout just because
I had Minions. I swapped him for Musa, I think.
Yeah, fair enough. The way he did carry the bottom team has to be mentioned, and also getting the recognition and signed by RFS does show something. Then I went with another Auda player, Ulim Bashevs. Maybe got quieter towards the end of the season, but still I think he's really the motor of the team. Him and Saveljevs, I think, complement each other very well in the middle, and I think he's been a very good player. And then I also went with Jojic. Well, he has to be somewhere in there. Well, we put him in our joint top squad, but yeah, just what a player. And then up top, Emerson. Oh, this is a bit of a weird. I went with like a 4-3-3. Emerson on the left, but then I have two strikers. So not really a right winger, but it's the second team. So
Emerson can play right.
Also, but yeah, I went with two strikers and Osuagu and Regge. I think both should get a shout. Well, Regge's top scorer. It would be criminal not to put him in any of the teams. And then Osuagu, very good for Jelgava. And yeah, as you said, Emerson is still Emerson. And despite how much he contributed goal-wise, he still is an amazing player and magical on the pitch.
As much as you said last episode, well, where did Marco Regge's 19 goals come from, or Dodo's 13 goals come from? That, like, you remember a couple of them.
Yeah.
For me, it's a little bit surprised that Osuagu is not in the top 10 scorers.
Right, yeah.
Because I feel like he's just scoring left and right. But...
Yeah, I think he just also did a lot of workload, and now I realize they've been really, really harsh towards Dodo, who was fourth in top goal scorers, but not in our squads. But I mean, it just shows. But it's probably because of how Liepaja were this year.
Yeah.
And both Edenberg is in there, but he's a defender, and it's I guess it's different. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. You know why I didn't put Olimbashevs, which is a little bit of a silly thing. So during the season, I thought that I'll play as the Latvian national team coach and football manager 23. Mm-hmm. And I put Olimbashevs in my squad, and he got a straight red in the first game.
It's so realistic, by the way. It's so Olimbashevs. Yeah, it's a good point. He's a bit of a nutcase at times, but still a good player. And definitely could be some other shouts for these positions. I think some players still did good. I think Gausha, for the amount of time he got in Malmö, was quite all right.
That's actually another example of players who come into RFS and can't do anything but then do really well
exactly,
elsewhere.
Yeah. Then maybe Jerugals, well, of course not the best season, but still the main goalkeeper of the champions. And definitely some meta players could get a shot. But I think overall we've made a good selection and very representative one. And a lot of overlap between both, so which means the players deserve to be in there, definitely.
All right, we'll post this and see what people think.
Yeah.
Of our top 11 4-5-1. Who do you think deserves the accolade of best young player, though?
So I went with the Dashkevich. I think very good, and I see you put him as well. But then I see you put Marhiev as well, and I realized he's also probably qualifies as the best young player. Still only 21, 20 maybe even. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
very young for the level he shows, and realistically, he's probably a better player this season than Dashkevich. But in our eyes, Dashkevich is probably a younger player, so I went with him, and I think it makes sense because though he mostly did not get not start, but the impact he made off the bench was quite crucial, and for a team like Riga, I think it shows a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm completely enamored with Marhiev. It's just crazy.
I agree.
Play.
Yeah,
with Dashkevich, there's just something to him, and this in the last round when Riga was playing Valmiera. And the equalizer on the 90th minute. Contreras scored, I think.
Contreras scored,
but it was the Dashkevich cross.
Yeah, exactly.
It was a very kind of persistent assist.
Yeah,
and I think he has, if he gets the time to play, whether it's in Riga or somewhere else, I think he can be a really, really major player for our country.
I agree.
So let's go with Dashkevich and award him the best young player of the season.
Yeah. What about let's go through the biggest flop and surprise maybe before we award the MVP.
Yeah.
I see. Well, tell me about your flops.
My biggest flop is Marco Dabro.
Yeah.
And when you saw that before recording, you were like, "Who's that?" Which is fantastic.
I remember of the name, but I struggle to remember exactly who he was, and then you explained. But explain to the listeners.
So Marco Dabro is one of the big Riga signings this year. I think we just checked before recording, his transfer market value is 700,000, and it's significantly less than even his top value, which was I don't even know. But he was supposed to be this big deal that Stipic. he's also Croatian, and it seems that Stipic knew of him for some time now, and then Dabro was playing in China someplace, and so they got him shipped over from China specifically on a request and good word of Tomislav Stipic, and then he just biggest flopped and didn't show anything and spent the rest of the season playing for barely even playing for Riga reserves. In a press conference that I attended, Stipic talked about this, and he basically said that he remembered him as this very good, exciting player, but that Marco Dabro kind of got too lazy in China, and so he's just not good enough for Riga.
Imagine the money they had to promise him to get him from China to Riga. It had to be quite a lot.
That's why he's my biggest flop.
I see it. It makes sense. Yeah.
Who did you have?
I see you also have Lizanos in that. Though he scored 9 goals, I get it, because probably could have done more, and he seemed a bit overall just a bit not there this season. So I get it, but Dabro definitely a bigger one.
He seemed kind of lazy, Lizanos, in the sense that he wasn't really. So why we like Contreras so much is because he keeps pressing defenders on and off the ball. Lizanov is just kind of, this season was just chilling there. I see
your point. I agree. He does look a bit lazy on the pitch, unfortunately. But some players just are like that. I think it's quite similar to Uldritis and Regja. But maybe it's just because of how they're built. But still, Lizanov definitely could have done better. I do agree.
I think he was doing better. That's I think why I put him as one of my biggest flops, is because when RFS signed him 2 seasons ago, this is not how he was playing. It kind of seems that he's getting more and more relaxed every season for whatever reason.
Yeah, shame.
Yeah, but this was sort of just my short list. My top pick would be Dabro.
Yeah. I didn't even remember about Dabro. I went with players who actually played more in the season, but I wouldn't say they necessarily played bad, but just they definitely should have done. One could have and should have done better. Other was just a bit of a weird situation. So first one is Vishniakovs. Can't forget that he's a player who's played for the national team. I think he's been, if not top, definitely up there in top scorers in Ekstraklasa in Poland in his time. So there's definitely some class about him. But this season he just couldn't seem to score for Supernova, though he was quite good for them and had his chances. For the striker who's been prolific previously in his career, it just seemed that it wasn't just going his way this season. I think he got some goals in the end, but just for a player of his caliber, and I think people just have forgotten how good he was in his time. Bit of a flop. And then I also went with, this might be an interesting choice, but Babets. I think he's such a good player and promising player and still quite young, and then he just suddenly didn't play at all for Riga. So at first he lost his starting place to Engena, that then came off the bench, and I think then can't remember the last time he even went off the bench. And for a player who's also, I think, cost some money to Riga last year.
Babic is, according to Transfermarkt, the most valuable player in Virsliga.
Well, there you go.
It started at the season he started at 2.5 million value. Now it's down to 1.8.
Well, there you go. Flop in itself in terms of value, and I think in that sense it's a fair shout because, it's not his fault, but maybe it's Stipic's fault. I don't know, but
apparently I think it was Edmund Snowitzky's one of his interviews. I think he was saying that all of the relatives and friends of Babic keep blasting Stipic on every kind of a social media post where Babic is not featured in the lineup or something like that.
I see.
I haven't seen that firsthand.
I haven't, but it makes sense, I guess. Yeah, makes sense.
Okay, and my biggest surprise has to be Regja.
Yeah, another one which sort of makes sense because just you wouldn't have thought that he would do so well, right?
Wait, are we going to do this as a United podcast category as well?
No, I don't think we have to. It's just, I think,
I
our
think
own opinion.
let's do it, because then we can post it nicely, and
Okay, yeah.
we already have best young player agreed on.
Dashkirch, yeah. Flop. I think we can maybe do a sort of a
Flops.
two types of flops. One should be the Dabro flop, in which he just such a overhyped player.
Flop.
Yeah, and then maybe sort of a failed player, but not because of himself. Could be maybe Babets.
Yeah, flopping Dabro and Babets.
Yeah, and both Riga. It just makes much sense. Yeah. And surprise. So you went Dregž.
Yep.
I think we can go with him, though. I guess before the season, it makes sense throughout the season. Well, he was obviously a good player who scores goals. I went with a very, very, subjective and not necessarily biased one, but a one that, well, probably a lot of people wouldn't agree on. Player left back. The left back I put in my second squad, Brechschneider. But just for me, because I thought last season he was just nothing special, and this season, a confident starting player for Auda, and a good player as well, and that surprised me personally. But I think it's not really a universal surprise, and then in which case, I could go with Dregž.
You know who was my second pick that I didn't put on the list that I shared with you? Nerugals.
Maybe, but again, in terms of you wouldn't expect him to get the spot of a first goalkeeper for the longest time of the season.
Third goalkeeper for a while.
Yeah, I guess it's a good point. Yeah,
but with Nerugals, I think his accomplishments are a little bit overinflated by the quality of the defenders in front of him.
Yeah,
whereas
exactly.
With Dregž, it's a little bit of more of a positive surprise that, as I mentioned before, it's like a bit of a Cinderella story. Had a very bad time with RFS, then was scraping the bottom, but really shining, much like Minions this year.
Yeah.
With Supernova last season, and then suddenly he is in Riga, which is already a surprise, and top scorer now, which is like, what?
Yeah, and also, before season, you could have predicted him to be top scorer just because he's a striker for Riga, but
I wouldn't predict him to be in the lineup.
But surprisingly, yeah, exactly. That's the first case because we had Dabro and other strikers, and the fact that Riga usually is not popular with its strikers scoring a lot. So I'm happy to agree on Dregž being the biggest surprise, but in the most positive way, and that's very nice.
And who do we go with as the MVP?
I think it's no doubt. I have exactly the same player as you have. Yep. It has to be Jānis Ikaunieks. What a player. I think also Marhiev could be a good shout, but he's just a bit, and doesn't play the important role. Well, he does play an important role. He just doesn't score goals and not that visible because he doesn't, provide the end product. But
Marhiev had... So I wouldn't put him as MVP because he's still... it's not the youngness of him. It's more that he... there were times when he made some ridiculous mistakes, some of which cost RFS things. So I think he just needs to mature a bit more.
Maybe, yeah, I guess. But overall, it makes sense. It being Ikaunieks, first of all, champion, and what a ridiculous player. It just shows that get out of Latvia, play for a bigger team. But now even maybe don't. Stay in RFS, get the group stage, play, the one group stage of your life that you will get. Probably. Well, I hope more.
What are you talking about? We need group stages every year now.
That definitely a good thing to ask of the teams, but yeah, definitely just what a player. And considering he missed 2 months, still being up there in terms of goals and assists as well. I think if you sum goals and assists, I think he's only one behind Dregž, which is incredible achievement considering the games he played, or the amount of games he played. And yeah, just such a skilled player, so good on the ball, good vision, and he has everything. And for many years, he's been the sort of hope of Latvian football. Had his ups and downs, but in Virsliga he just proves that he is the best player, and also scored the winning goal of the championship for RFS, True. The penalty, and I think it makes sense, and pretty much undisputed best player of the season.
Yeah, I wish we had more categories. go through.
Well, we can think of one, but what else we could go
I don't
through?
know.
Maybe
So
best.
something that pops to mind is like the most ridiculous coach.
Well, that's a good one. Who would you go with?
Well, it would be a close one between Kolinko, who started with Supernova, and Richards, the meta coach. But I don't think that's a helpful category.
Yeah. Well, him and Van Pertie is sort of a ridiculous coach.
Perty sort of went. Maybe I just stopped watching his press conferences.
Maybe
But
as well.
he kind of went into the woods together with the rest of the Liepaja strategy.
But even Stipic at times is ridiculous. Playing
but
these
he's good
mind
ridiculous.
games.
He's
Yeah,
good ridiculous.
yeah. But ridiculous nevertheless. And I also really like Richards. Sometimes the truth he speaks on his conferences is immaculate. A lot of coaches may be afraid to say things that he does say.
Richards says many things, and some of those things are worth listening to.
Referencing the tweet, nice.
Yeah, but I think the emphasis, which is not something that could communicate in the tweet, is on some.
Yeah, well, still he sees. Well, he's been in the Latvian football for a long time, and of course, sometimes he's a bit just salty. But some things he says are worth listening to. I would agree.
Definitely.
Not all, but a lot of them, and I like it. And also have to give a shout out to Alakari, who's been also very interesting during press conference. It's very solid, but also an interesting coach. Coach has been very interesting this year.
Yeah,
Good category. Maybe best goalkeeper could be given, but that's pretty much Purinc, the main goalkeeper of the squads that we did.
yeah. I think we would just go with Purinc.
Yeah. And,
But given how I wouldn't go with that kind of a category. Maybe best defense, but I mean the stats of Virsliga sort of predetermine that.
yeah, fair enough.
With the RFS conceding only 18 goals all season.
Actually, one player I would also like to mention, because we didn't really go over this stat, but so an interesting stat was most yellow cards. In this ranking, the confident winner was Rinalds Aizups of Daugavpils. I really like that because he's a young defender, first season in Virsliga, very interesting player, both in terms of style, also had a very specific haircut at the start of the season, and 15 yellow cards. It's almost half of the games he played, and it means he would have, because of disqualification, missed 3 or 4 games. And the second place is Donjišas with 11, so 4 more than the second place. What a stat for a young player to be this, well, let's say rude, aggressive. 15 yellow cards, that's also quite an achievement. And so fair play to Aizups for that.
And Aizups he's not like a big guy either. He's not like Marci Sosh.
Yeah,
He's like this thin, tall, blonde fella.
Yeah, exactly. But he's been quite good actually this season.
He's been good. I'm just thinking that, if a defender who's like fouling people, you think like Sergio Ramos, kind of aggressive, exactly. Or like the Italian defenders.
I do agree. And that in that sense, an interesting one, but also what a player. So deserves a shout, I think, in this podcast just because of the ridiculous amount of yellow cards.
Yeah.
What a player, yeah. But otherwise, I don't know what I think we could, if we wanted to, we could come up with a lot of nominations, but overall we covered a lot.
Well, I think maybe the bigger question and the more important one is, do you think Virsliga took a step forward this year?
Even though you said the level maybe dropped, which I could agree with, I think overall as a league it did take a step forward. I think in organization wise, almost no rescheduled games, only 2, I believe, which is quite a great sign. One of them, the first game of the season, met Liepaja just because apparently it was too cold or icy.
Yeah, right. So RFS and Valmir are playing knee deep in snow, but there is a little bit of snow in Riga, so let's move the game to July.
A ridiculous one, yeah.
But that's not because of Virsliga. That's because of refereeing.
Of course, and overall, it just seems that every year it does take steps forward, and the clubs as well. One thing is level, but other is the organization. The rise of Auda, I think, is very good from 5th to 3rd. Also, the organization is good. We talked about the social media. Everything around the club seems, very good for Latvian standards and for a club that's only the second year in Virsliga. And Valmiera seems to be also quite a stable club, been up and down in the table, but still getting the top 4. Liepaja is a different question, but overall, seeing how Jelgava came in and how competitive it was, I think one stat we didn't mention about Valmiera, they drew, lost, and won against every team. So very competitive for Valmiera, but overall, Jelgava beat Riga, which was a surprise result, and even Meta could have competed, and Supernova drew with Riga. And the competitiveness, I think that is really what takes a step forward, because if it's always like a one or two teams that wins the championship, it gets a bit boring. But these new teams coming in and maybe loaning some players and getting them on loan, but still playing and being competitive, I think that's what makes the league great and so watchable. And I would say overall a step forward is taken, and I just hope it continues that way.
Yeah, no, I would agree for sure. And not just in terms of all the things you mentioned, but we're having infrastructure developed, the LNK Sporta Parks being at the center of it. They're trying to build up their stadium there to the point where hopefully next season's qualification games can be played there. It just got fancy new lighting installed.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of FIFA and UEFA investments going into smaller pitches. So this foundation of Latvian football is definitely being reinforced and developed, which is really the indicator of going forward. Football is a long-term thing. Then with the Riga spending, we're getting some very exciting players. Okay, fair enough.
Team.
But Contreras, Taiwo seems like he might have things to show, and
Iverico as well.
Yeah, in our episode with about the transfers in summer, Yanis, who was the guest, he said that Taiwo is a very impactful potentially signing. He just needs a bit of time to get his feet. And this season was more exciting than last season.
Yeah. Also, by the way, 2 more things I remember: VAR, first season of VAR, which I think was overall quite successful. I think it made some right decisions.
People like to complain.
And
I do agree with the. So I think at the beginning of the season, the plan was we're going to have VAR at 1 game per round. For the first lap, and then sort of the implication was that it's going to increase, and it never did. We still ended up with 1 VAR game per round.
I think there were some rounds where there were 2, but still, overall, I guess I agree.
So my position is that, this halfway measure, obviously you needed to train the referees, but I hope next season we'll have VAR all games per round. But also, I discovered listening to all of these post-Virsliga interviews that clubs actually have to pay for VAR. So VAR is paid for from part of match day revenues of the home team. And since match day revenues are not really a thing in Virsliga yet, unless you're Riga or Liepaja or Valmiera,
Liepaja, I think their games are free, so
that's
definitely
true.
No revenues.
I was just looking at the average attendance, and for Riga that's 883, and then Liepaja, Valmiera are about the same at 460. Some teams I've heard just don't want to pay for VAR, and I don't remember which team it was, but they just don't want them there.
Would make sense, but I think depends on what they decide. I think nothing that much to talk about VAR. It is an interesting thing to install in Latvian football. It was nice trying out. We'll see what's next season, but I think overall it was fine. Maybe not the fact that it was only present in one of the games of each round, but still I wouldn't say it made like any controversial decisions, as it tends to happen in Premier League, for example, where people love to complain. But don't really want to do that. But still an interesting thing and sort of a step forward still in terms of.
But what do you mean? We'll see what happens. There's no going back. VAR is the prerequisite for international football, so you just kind of have to have it.
I guess, yeah. Well, we'll see in terms of how many games are covered by VAR each round. Now, I think it's still impossible for Virsliga to cover each and every round. But we'll see. And the other thing I want to mention is that the average attendance also has increased, which is also another step forward, I'd say. And as long as that keeps to be the trend, maybe the match day revenue, as you mentioned, could become more and more of a big deal for the clubs. And I hope that happens. And I think overall more people are interested in football and coming to games. And even the last match day in Valmiera, it was quite full. And it was nice to see, despite the weather and everything. Well, it wasn't that cold, but that's what Latvians would say. But overall, a lot of positives from the season that could be considered a step forward.
And if we're talking of attendance, which is also a metric of interest, this season the most attended game was obviously the summer Big Riga Derby, 4,752 people, which is almost full Skonto Stadium. Second most attended was Riga versus Liepaja, 1,343, and the third most attended was also Liepaja, but at home versus Daugavpils, 1,142. And I think overall, it was a minor increase in average attendance, but it's year on year, so that's the important bit.
Yeah.
And national team games are reliably being sold out, regardless of whether it's by local fans or foreign fans. And big Riga derbies at Skonto, which is much easier to get to, are also reliably attracting multiple thousands in attendance.
Yeah, also the Latvian Cup final was quite sold out, especially comparing to last year.
Yeah, it was like 5,100 something.
Yeah, exactly. Very, very nice stuff. Nice to see. And it just seemed that people...
European games as well, were reliably...
The Riga ones,
over 5,000.
What a blast, yeah.
So overall, a plus. So let's see where we go from here.